is my screen the main one here?
What is going on, everybody? Bobby Five with Eric Sheets-Haber and Jake Rohde. We are going to be talking through this Monsters NFL slate. A lot of stuff going on. I still am not entirely sure what I'm going to do overall, but trying to figure that part out. How you doing, Sheets? And then we'll go over to Rohde.
Well, a little life tilt here, but aside from that, we're gonna take it out on the DFS streets. We're gonna play everything today, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. So for those of you, my wife had full knee replacement surgery last Monday, and it ain't a lot of fun. It's certainly more. It's less fun for her for sure, but it ain't a lot of fun for anybody. And I feel really terrible for her. And it's rough. It's rough business. I mean, it's something that she had to do, and down the road she's gonna be happy, but right now no one's happy. But
yeah, that's right.
Yep, and it's the way it is. So we're playing DK, we're playing FanDuel, we're playing Yahoo, we're playing the 1 p.m. slate, we're playing the 4 p.m. slate, we're playing the freaking showdown, whatever else is going. We got to distract ourselves in some way. So I guess the first thing is we have to kind of figure. Did at least most of the questionables get resolved? Because I know most of them did. What's still pending out there?
Most are done. There's not official word, but we're all expecting Love to play. That would be a big surprise if he didn't. I don't really know what else that I have. I'm trying to look through.
Perfect. I mean, Samuel is going to play. I mean, like all these guys that were questionable, they're all probably going to play. Okay.
Yeah, it looks mostly like the questionables are still that are still out there are going to play as of this moment. Rohde, how you doing, man? Any overall?
I'm doing good. Yeah, like Joe Mixon is out though, so you want to update that. Cam Akers is more of a play now. He got questionable and then he got ruled out this morning, so that's good. We know that at least. Kamara and Chris Olave are playing, so that's good. And then Debo's already been announced in. He's not even questionable anymore, so he's good to go. So pretty much clear. So hopefully that's easy for us. I'm doing pretty good. I'm ready to get to it. So
nice. Yeah. I mean, I guess my overall take on this is like it's another week where everyone's going to do the same thing and play 3 running backs. There's almost no lineups I think that are going to have not three running. I mean, not almost none, but like less than 10%. And the question is, do we feel like that's the right strategy? I know Sheets took a stand last week on it and tried to play no running backs in the flex. Obviously, wasn't a great week for that last week. But any takes you're gonna be doing the same kind of thing today, Sheets?
Quite honestly, I didn't really think about it, but when I did I did a quick breakdown the other day, literally 10 minutes, but just to see who kind of the best plays looked like. And the one thing that I noticed, I'm going to look at it again right now, but I didn't see the same type of standout running back separation as we had last week. Like last week, there was, forget the results, but there was Charbonnet, Mason, and then Akers, and then A-Chain and Kamara for the upside, and there was very little like to compete with. This week, like if I'm looking at just forget what I'm getting to, just the straight up like projections and stuff. I got guys here. I got 4 guys that look about equal, and then like 2 guys just below and another one just below. So I can make the case that any 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs. Kind of like I have like 2 points higher than everybody else. And so I think that this week I might actually have the running backs in the flex, because there are more combinations of them that I think I need than last week, where I thought I can get away with just a couple, regardless of whether that actually happened or not. And the wide receivers this week, I didn't think for whatever reason were as strong as last week's, but I could be wrong about that, because I now see I actually have two wide receivers that are standing out, but they're like going to be like 3 of them, but they're like all going to be wicked popular. So yeah, so that's my overall thing about the running backs in the flex take. The other thing I noticed, we can get into quarterback, I guess, straight away, but I don't think I've seen. I mean, I probably have, but if you wouldn't mind, I'll just transition right into this to see like 2 guys like rate like so much. Not as much as it was earlier in the week, but I have Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray like significantly above everybody else, and they happen to be in the same game, so
Right.
so it's going to lend itself probably to a lot of game stacking. And then the other thing is that if you didn't want to do that, then the natural like pay down is Justin Fields, I think. So I think those three are the main that I would just like identify as like cash game. You know what I mean? Like quarterbacks or so. Interestingly, what I'm actually getting to, it's actually pretty close to that. But what I'm not getting is an overwhelming overweight to quarterbacks. Like I'm getting like my highest owned quarterback is 16%. And God help me, it's Justin Fields right now. And then the next highest owned I have is 12%. So I have like everybody. And my next highest is going to be actually CJ Stroud. And unfortunately, I think that's because I'm getting all this freaking Nico Collins. So I'll have to see if I want to do that. And then the other quarterback I want to ask you about is a guy who could be the worst quarterback in the league. And he projects okay, and he's 10%, and that's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, pass for me. I didn't have to think about that one very long. There's no chance I'm playing any Deshaun Watson.
I like it, Sheets. I like Watson.
I just can't do it. Maybe it works out when you have a quarterback coming out saying, I do not want to run. Like that's the speak this week. That's what he actually said to me. I don't want to run. That's a really just automatically not going to be playing this guy in DFS no matter what.
That's pretty funny.
Okay. He's X'd out for me. But I agree with your assessment that it is it seems like people are going to be going one of four places: Stroud, Murray, Daniels, Burrow. I do think some people will play Fields as a spend down. It's a great matchup. It's just the problem is like Pittsburgh is just game managing their way to another great season probably. The one I think it stands out the most to me as a contrarian play. There's two actually. I think Trevor Lawrence has tremendous upside in this game, and I think that he's going to be more popular than what as I say that, Sabres have just upped his ownership by 2%. Like he's now 6% instead of 4%. But literally that just happened. The other ones that I think are interesting are Jalen Hurts. No one wants to play him without the receiver. You play him with Saquon, in Tampa Bay. I know the weather's not going to be pretty, but the rushing upside is there. And the one that's really weird that I keep coming back to is Caleb Williams against my Rams. They might throw the ball like 50 times again, and he's probably going to throw for 300 yards. Maybe he gets a couple touchdowns in there, and he's cheap enough to where you can play him. So those are the other ones that I'm looking at. How about you, Rody? What do you think about the quarterback? Oh, I got Tony. Tony just came in asking about Caleb Williams. I just threw it out there. Go ahead. Rody.
Yeah, I built some like MME lines, like hand builds with Caleb Williams earlier this morning. I don't mind it. I'm getting CJ Stroud. I'm getting a lot of Trevor Lawrence. Getting some Jaden Daniels and Kyle Murray. I think I do like the Hurts play. I think he's going to be in one of my bigger lineups. CJ Stroud will be in my biggest lineup. And then I really like Murray over. I went Murray over Daniels in a bigger lineup, but then I have a bunch of Jaden Daniels, and I'm getting a lot of him in MME as my most owned quarterback in SaberSim right now. My bigger builds, a 20 max stuff like that. I'm going to get some of him probably. And then I do like the Watson game a little bit. I'm lower on Burrow, but I've always been lower on Burrow. But Chase is in a smash spot today. I might get a little Packers, but I'm a little worried about Josh Jacobs and them. Would love coming back on the injury. Maybe they run it a little bit more this week, but I like Jaden Reed a lot in that game too. So those are kind of the games I'm targeting a lot today.
Speaking of the Burrow thing, isn't it bizarre that the way things work out? Because if you would have done an advance, somebody was talking about this, if they would have done what they projected the line would be when they played Carolina with Cincinnati, the guesses were 10.5, 11.5 points. It's like 3.5 point spread or whatever, 4 point spread. That's crazy. I mean, it's just because the way things worked out last week and Dalton and the revenge and people are sort of on this. Chuba Hubbard looking like the most popular play on the slate. Just a very strange situation for that whole game. I don't know if Cincinnati's defense is necessarily as bad as we think it is. I mean, this Redskins team this Washington Commanders team has not punted in 2 games. I don't know that it's necessarily we can just throw it all in the Bengals suck. Anyway, as I say that, we transition over to running back. Now it's looking like Cam Akers and some combination of Hubbard, as the spend downs, and then Kyron and Breece Hall at the top are where people are going. What do you like, Rhodey? And then we'll go over to Sheets and see what he likes at running back.
Yeah, I've definitely I like some Kyron. I like Barkley. I'm big on that Houston Jacksonville game, and I'm getting a little bit more ETN at 7K than the ownership. I'm kind of gonna add a little bit more of him. I like being over the 4%. I'm seeing him at 4 to 6%. I like the game, so I like him. I like a lot of Najee Harris. I think he's kind of chalky, so I'm a little worried about it. So I'm kind of bringing back my Najee Harris love. But Brian Robinson in that same Washington game, he's a little lower owned. I see maybe he'll get more later, but I like him a lot. I like the Aaron Jones in the Packers game as a run back to like a love stack. I'm getting a little James Conner, maybe a little bit more leverage with those running backs in the Washington-Arizona game, so I can get off it a little bit and play those guys still. Josh Jacobs there is a low-owned play. Chuba's getting pretty chalky. And, I'm worried about that game. I'm a little lower on that game, so I've tried to add a little more Chubb and a little more Chase lately in like a mini correlation. And then that's kind of it. Then I'm not really deep diving anymore. I'm staying the high-end backs today a lot,
You're not
Kamara and Bijan in that game. I don't mind the Saints, although I'm a little worried, so I went a little lower on that Saints game. A couple offensive linemen around on both sides too, but defensive players out on the Saints side too. So I don't know. It's a little worrisome with a lot of injuries on the offensive lines for both those teams there in that game. So
no, and you may have mentioned it, or maybe just like skipped it over or whatever. But you didn't mention Jordan Mason, I don't think.
I did not. I don't have any of him at all right now.
Okay,
I need to get more.
He's my highest owned right now.
Yeah.
At 35%. The thing that concerns me, it's kind of weird, but the Deebo Samuel is back. He could get some runs, and he can get some offense in general.
Yep.
So that's definitely affecting that. Right now, that's what I had. I didn't get any of the Cam Akers. Actually like 2%. But I didn't update everything.
Yeah. Saber Sim's pushing. He's my highest owned guy. And
they're going to give you another chance to play him. I think everybody got very, very lucky and bailed out that played Akers last week.
I'm only getting 5% Jordan Mason now too, and I just did a 150 build, brand new.
We'll see how that goes.
Excuse me, I finished 4th in the 150, the big 150 last week, and I had one of my running backs was the backup, the other running back, Agumble, whatever his name is.
Well,
the backup to Akers.
Here's the guy I want to ask you about.
Go ahead. Yeah,
is this? I mean, you got the freaking Steelers who's going to score freaking 19 points. And in a good game, and Najee Harris is like 30% owned or something. I mean, I don't know. I see 30%, but
I don't think he's really good.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like I'm getting to him myself. I'm really hoping that I rerun everything and just get none of it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get it just because I just will. But that just, I mean, don't I want to play guys with more upside? Like I know we said like Hubbard's going to be chalky or whatever, but it's, that's going to be, I think, a better environment, I think, than the Pittsburgh game. Kyron Williams, the guy's the man. I don't know what else to say. I like that. The Brian Robinson Washington, I guess that makes some sense. But listen, Jaden Daniels is he's
stole 2 touchdowns from last week.
He's not announcing that he's not running. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And then Bijan, I mean, these guys, I really like. This is the obvious freaking just massive Aaron Jones revenge game against Green Bay. I guess that certainly makes some sense. So I mean, there are options. James Conner, you mentioned again. I tried last week. I'm right now getting like 7% Breece Hall. Like in a spot where they're a 100-point favorite. Now with that said, I mean the other dude is getting share. He's not getting, the lion's share, but he's certainly getting share. And then who's to say that Alvin Kamara doesn't have upside? And who's to say that you give Jonathan Taylor another shot, even though it's a tough matchup? I don't know. But and then Barkley, like you said, I mean, I think all these guys can do it. I don't know if I need to play Najee Harris at 25%. I'm making that up 25%. Maybe it's less, but and maybe Akers will pop a little bit more. But I just think that on this slate, now that I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't mind getting 3 running backs because there are just a lot of guys that can get there this weekend.
There is, and I have to give myself. I got one thing really right. My bold take last week was 100% accurate. The three running backs I had was Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Jonathan Taylor, and they all completely smashed.
And we'll not forget my big take that all week was that Arizona game was going to bust.
Yeah, and you were right about that.
Yep,
it didn't look like it was going to at first, but then it did.
And I had no idea how, and I still have no idea how. But it just did.
And by the way, Rhodey's big take was that Juwan Jennings was the best play on the slate, which also
that was pretty close, huh? What do you think? Is that a good call?
If we could duplicate this,
is that a good call? I'm not sure.
That was a good call, I think.
It was.
I'm retiring from hot takes today.
I think he got like the third highest score of like any 49er, like including Jerry Rice. Like,
right. The greatest game in Niners history. Right. Yeah, so just to touch for what I have in running backs, the person I'm most overweight on, and I don't play running backs against Tampa Bay in general for 5 years or 6 years or whatever, however long I've been playing DFS. The rule is you play receivers against Tampa Bay, you don't play running backs. With everybody out on Philadelphia, you're telling me that somehow Saquon Barkley is going to be the 8th highest owned running back? Get the hell out of here! I'm going to have him in half my lineups probably.
Dude, he is accelerating.
He is. He's a phenomenal player that actually has a great system now. Finally,
well, forget that. He's got a system, but he's got a freaking healthy body. You know, like
yeah, it's true. So I love the Saquon. He's my biggest overweight stance of any of the running backs. I know that he's going to have some ownership, but it's not going to be enough. Kyron is my second highest owned. Breece Hall is my third. Bijan Robinson number 4. 5th, Aaron Jones. Then we get into the weird. What do we do with Zach Moss? Chuba Hubbard, Cam Akers category. So I think my answer is to try and just play those other guys more and play a little bit more James Conner. The one that's not getting any love at all this week, as much as I thought he was going to. Early in the week, he looked like he was going to be the highest owned. Brian Robinson Jr. is sort of faded. I haven't heard people talking about him much either. I think that's a sneaky spot where the Saints defense is. I mean, they've looked really good so far. I don't think we can just marry ourselves to that. So I like the idea of getting a little bit overweight on Robinson also. That's I guess the bulk of my takes.
There's just odd options this week.
Yeah, there is. There's a ton, and I think I'm going to end up with running backs in most of my flex spots, but I'm going to try and do some 4 receiver builds just to try and get a little bit different. What do we have, Sheets? What do you like most at receiver? And I guess it sort of, correlates a little bit with what games you're stacking.
Right. So interestingly, I mean, not even that interestingly. Like my top owned guys are like a couple of them are pretty chalky, and a couple of them are a little, I think, kind of interesting. I don't know. I have like Nico Collins right now. I mean, just my top owned guy, and then the other chalky guy I have is Deontay Johnson, and the other chalky guy I have is Rashawn Rice. But I didn't check the ownership on this guy. I have 23% of this guy. And I'm kind of happy I do. Is Tucker going to be chalky for the Raiders?
Yeah,
Trey Tucker going to be probably the highest on the receiver.
Oh,
yes.
Shoot. Okay.
I'm also going after that too, though, because he's the obvious value on the slate. Mm-hmm. There are some guys you can pivot off of with Jonathan Mingo or things like that, but he is. Yeah. I mean,
but the guy I want to, highlight, and this really is DFS 101. I think. I hope that he's not that. He's got to end up being popular because it's just so freaking obvious, and it's like the obvious pivot. It seems, I would imagine, but with Nico Collins at 100% owned or whatever, why are we just not playing Stephon Diggs? I think
he's going to be. I think Stephon Diggs is going to be the third highest owned quarterback.
So he is okay because I'm seeing ownership protection 10% or something like that, and I'm like that just can't be the case. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's my take anyway. I think he's going to end up around 20.
Okay, all right. So in summary, I'm really not particularly off the board yet on anything as far as receiver goes.
Right.
Amari Cooper over 10%, maybe. I got that. I don't know.
Well, that's something. That is a little different. I think it's going to be very uncommon to spend all the way up today, and I think that's a really interesting way to get different. I'm very heavy on Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Marvin Harrison. I like the idea of being overweight those guys specifically, just so I can try to differentiate my lineups by actually playing the best players, which is it's a concept I'm just trying to get my head around, but I think it makes a lot of sense. What do you have at wide receiver, Rody?
Let's see. I like all those plays you guys mentioned. I was just looking at the Sims. I've even lowered Jane Daniels and Murray in that game. I'm just still getting so much in the Sims. on SaberSim. So yeah, it's just weird. Let's get back to receiver. Yeah, I like Nico a lot. I think Nico Strouder in my main lineup. Rashee Rice, I got a lot to hand build earlier. I really like him. He's a great play. Lower on Chase, I'm going to try to bump him up a little bit in my MME build just because I don't have a lot in my hand build. So I'm going to add him in manually probably. Marvin Harrison, I like a little bit. Obviously Diggs, I like a little bit too. Deontay Johnson is a good price. Mari Cooper, I'm getting a little bit of him just because he's low owned and a good play. I think I've gotten a lot of Browns in my optimizer a little bit too. When I was doing some manual stuff earlier, I like him. Christian Kirk, I like at 5,200. I want to get Brian Thomas in my main lineup, but I needed the $200 to get to Chuba, and I wanted to not play Harris, so I went down to Kirk, and I think Kirk's in a smash spot too at low ownership in that game. Yeah, those are my main guys there. What's that?
I love the play you just mentioned because he's my second highest owned receiver. I have him at 35% at Brian Thomas.
I know. I was going to put him in my main lineup, and then I don't want to play Najee. I could play Najee, a cheaper defense, and Thomas, or I could play Kirk, Hubbard, and Broncos defense, which I don't like. I'm on the cheap defenses today, but I don't know if I want to be there or not. But
I get the Kirk play over Thomas, like because he's got familiarity with Lawrence and all this stuff, and it's kind of a must-win for them and all that. But I think Brian Thomas is going to be one of the best receivers in football, and not a very long time. And I want to be ahead on that guy. And I think this is the perfect matchup for him to kind of potentially go nuts. So that's my
I'll probably switch my Lawrence stack with Kirk and Strange to a Thomas one and lower the defense is what I'm going to do there.
Yep.
Boom. There, I swapped the thing around. Back to him. T. Higgins is cheap too. I played him in a Burrow stack and a one that I built over Chase, but I want to add more Chase. DJ Moore is in a really good spot against your Rams today. If you are doing the Caleb Williams thing, I think he's in a smash spot. I can't recommend Juwan Jennings today. Trey Tucker is the 3,600 cheap guy I'm getting to. Another cheap guy I don't mind is Elijah Moore in that Cleveland game at 3,600. He's cheap. Jacoby Myers at 5,500 in a spot where he's going to get a lot more usage today. Just some cheap guys. That mid tier is really nice today. Even Michael Wilson at 4,200. There's a lot of 4K to 5K guys that I really like today. I think even Terry McLaurin's cheap too, right? 58. Is that right? Yeah, 5,800.
Yeah, he's
a 5K guy too in that Washington game. We got so there's a lot of 4 or 5K guys that I really like today. So I'm kind of staying in that range.
I'm getting like 15% of George Pickens. I mean, why am I getting these Steelers?
The Steelers are popping for everybody. They talked all this morning about everyone's going to that game. But like you said earlier, she said it's going to be like 19. They're going to score like 19, 20 points.
We have to realize, though, the Steelers are going to have more possessions than so far this year. Every team that's played Indianapolis has had the most possessions of any team that week, every week this year. And it happened last year all the time as well. Indianapolis plays faster than any team in football. And they're going to force you extra possession. So I understand why you're getting the Pickens. I actually like that play personally.
All right, sounds good.
And he's cheap too. It's not like he's super pricey, and he's their guy, you know.
Yeah,
is Russell no Justin Fields the quarterback? Okay.
No, yeah, Fields.
Here's the real one for the biggest. So I mentioned Brian Thomas as being my second highest owned receiver at the moment, but the one I'm most overweight on because he's literally projected to be like 0.5% owned, and someone is going to have to explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old why. Why is because Keenan Allen's back, we think Rome Odunze is just going to be gone. This is your first round pick, a top 10 pick, and who you love, who's just balling out of control. And all of a sudden, we think he's not going to be a part of anything. Give me the shares. I'll take the 25% of them. He's not going to be owned at all. I love Odunze, and I love Greg Dortch as a pivot off of Michael Wilson. I agree.
Yeah, there you go too.
Let me suggest something similar but different. Which I was going to say before. So, why is nobody playing Odunze when Keenan Allen is back? When you mentioned I can't play whatever, so I'm going to ask you, why can't you play Juwan Jennings?
No, you're right. He's my highest owned best ball player. You're right. I just said I can't have him as the best play of the slate as like the low and like.
I'm not saying the best play of the slate.
Yeah.
But
he's priced up more. He's 5,600 now.
Wait, so quite frankly, who's to say that Deebo Samuel's 100%? And second of all, Brandon Ayuk has sucked. Okay.
Yes.
So
Juwan Jennings has been.
Well, but Kittle is back, right?
I'm going to go out and say that.
Yeah, that whole offense is back, but I do
Yeah,
respect
all right,
the Patriots pass game or secondary a little bit more.
Fair enough.
It's really good. They have a really good secondary.
Yeah.
But again, they're going to have to. They're going to go 3 and out every time on offense. So you're going to get a million possessions.
You're right. It's going to be a slaughter. I think you're right. San Francisco onslaught.
Yeah, San Francisco in a must-win game at home against this Patriots team. I just can't see how they don't dominate.
But they do have all their weapons back today, so it's quite an array of options.
All the record except for
CMC.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to tight end. Rody, start us off, and then we'll go over to Sheets and see what you guys are getting.
Yeah, tight end's been the weird one all season. I was big on Goddard last week. I had Goddard and Juwan Jennings and almost everything. I still couldn't take anything down. I don't know how I didn't, but I didn't.
I don't know how.
Here we are this week. We're going to recommend a cheap play in my favorite game of the day. Houston, Dalton Schultz is finally going to have a game today.
Ooh,
he'll be my hot take if I have to give one. I think he's going to have a good game. I was high on him coming into the season. I like their offense. I think without Tank Dell today, they got the 3 guys. It's going to be Schultz, Diggs, and Nico Collins. So Schultz is my guy. I like Goddard again today. Brock Bowers is still probably the overall projected best tight end in this late. They're kind of cheap. Kelsey, maybe he has a good game. He's low owned if you want to give it a tournament play. Kittle's back today as well, but they got a bunch of weapons back. Pitts is only 4,800. Don't mind that. Freiermuth, I stacked with the Fields lineup and Pickens earlier. I don't mind him at 3,900. He's super cheap. Touchdown equity. Gesicki's still cheap in that Cincinnati game, getting red zone looks at 3,500. I like him. Strange at 3,100. Elijah Higgins filling in for Trey McBride today at 3,100 for Arizona. I don't mind getting a little bit of him. And Akins for Cleveland filling in for Njoku today as well. 3K flat. There's a lot of cheap options. I still haven't mentioned Parkinson, which is getting a lot of work from Matthew Stafford in that Rams game. If you want to go to him at 3.7, there's a lot of cheap guys, and then Zach Ertz at 4K. I mean, there's just so many options. I'm kind of spread out with all those guys a little bit. So I do like it, but I kind of pair a tight end with my stacks. So kind of.
Yeah. Just to touch on that real quick, I think that I love the Schultz call because that was one I've been trying to think of something a little bit different, and he makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good place to go. I'll go real quick, and then we'll go to Sheets for tight ends. But I love Parkinson today. Remember, the Rams have nobody. They're going to have a million possessions because they're playing Chicago. No one's on Parkinson. I'm in on Parkinson. I also don't mind if you wanted to. I didn't mention it, receiver. But sprinklings of the Rams receivers is probably a good idea as well. I do have a couple Matthew Stafford stacks. But I like Parkinson quite a bit. I like on the spend up, I think that Goddard makes a lot of sense. I was kind of disappointed, Rody, because you didn't mention Tucker Kraft, who is currently my second highest owned tight end. So I was hoping
I'm kind of mad about that, actually, because I'm so exposed to Musgrave in best ball. I need Musgrave to step it up.
Yeah.
So I'm a little disappointed, but he's been playing well. He's been playing good. Or further tight end spot. I like
Sheets,
it.
how about you at tight end? What are you getting to?
Well, Dallas Goedert, I mean, looks to be the best play. And then after that, I have like some spread. So I have like 18% Goddard like right now. And after that, a lot of the guys you guys mentioned, like Elijah Higgins, 10%, I have that. Brock Bowers, that's his name, at 9%. Mm-hmm. Kittle. Feels gross, honestly, but yeah. Dalton Kincaid, Zach Ertz. What will the world be without more Steeler ownership? So let's get some Freiermuth also. And then I do have.
I love Kincaid. Obviously, FanDuel only play, by the way, because he's not on the main slate in DraftKings.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
Right.
Sorry about that. And then
no.
Oh, that's perfect play. Yeah, he's fine on FanDuel.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Great. And I was going to take a shot on what's his name if Olave was out. I was going to try. Who's the quarterback guy? He's killing me.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
I was thinking Shaheed. I was like, what?
I'm telling you, I'm toast right now. And what about these the 2 old guys or the 2 guys that just don't do anything anymore? What about Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, like you were saying?
On FanDuel, yes, you can do the Andrews thing. I think that makes some sense. Yeah. Kelce, I think, is going to have that breakthrough game pretty soon. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but I like that idea.
Saberson's giving me a bunch of him. He's actually third on.
I'm just looking at all the games here, so that's why I'm pretty.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
You're good. I don't mind. I love
What
it.
about what about you mentioned that you think that Trevor Lawrence is live? This Strange at tight end. You like him at all?
Yeah.
Strange is my highest on tight end right now.
Well, I guess you do. There it is.
Yeah. Partly because I'm stacking that Houston game up quite a bit, but not even just with Lawrence. I have him as a run back against my Houston stacks. I have Strange, Kraft, and Parkinson as my highest owned because I did find myself needing the money. Like I said, I wanted to get overweight the big receivers, which means I couldn't afford Bowers and Goddard as much as I'd like to. But those would be the two that I think if you're playing a cash game, you're trying to play either Goddard or Bowers. I really would try to do that. But for tournaments, I want the upside of guys like Chase, Jefferson, and all that stuff. That means I have to spend down at tight end for me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get as much of those guys as I would like, including Kelsey and Kittle and Kelsey, who I like a little bit as well. But I just I'm not able to get there personally. All right, let's talk about some really uninteresting things, but maybe it's an interesting week a little bit because you're going to have more chalky defenses than we're used to seeing. Last week we had a huge shock on Tampa Bay, and everything else was kind of spread out, and Tampa Bay had totally busted. This week it's going to be the Falcons. It looks like. Sheets. What I know you say you don't want to play more than 20% of any team, but which ones are you getting 19% of?
The Falcons, the Cardinals, and then after that, I'm 10% below. So it's Falcons and Cardinals are the best ones for me. And then Niners, Texans, Packers. Just basically just roll the dice, whatever.
Yeah, I got you. But I do think that if you're gonna be out there trying to spend down, I think the Falcons make sense. But I also think the Rams make a lot of sense, like a ton of sense. And I'm surprised that they're not the most highest owned. I think that's a really, really good team to take a shot with. Chicago's looking popular. I literally didn't even consider Chicago for 1 second. I have too much respect for maybe I have a little too much respect for Stafford, but I don't understand why Chicago is popular at all as a defense. I think their defense is so much better. They're improved. You can sack Stafford maybe, but I don't know. I don't see the big playability as much as maybe some others do. Rody, what are you getting to on defense?
Yeah, the Falcons are popping for me a lot too, but I'm sticking with some of these cheaper defenses. You know, the Panthers are 2,400. I know Bengals haven't looked that great. I think they can be all right. Maybe they do good. Patriots even. Broncos probably one of my favorite, one in 2,500. You know, I mean, I don't mind them. So I'm grabbing a lot of those. But the Falcons, I'm getting a lot. Packers, I'm getting a little bit too. They've been playing really well defense. I'm getting a lot of them in the SaberSim Optimizer, the second most at like 12%. I'm pretty spread out. A lot of 8, 12, 12%, and then 22 for the Falcons. I'll probably just leave defense today. I'm getting a little bit of every one, but those are my favorite ones. So.
Yeah, I like your Broncos thing too. The Broncos are my second highest owned right now behind the Rams, but it's just a price thing. And then I have the Cardinals and the Falcons. Basically, it's just like everybody else, I guess.
Yep.
All right. We didn't talk about really game stacks and stuff. And I actually think it's interesting to touch on this point just in general that we really haven't seen game stacks winning for quite a while in the NFL. For the majority of the weeks, it usually is. It doesn't mean you don't have a stack with your quarterback, but I mean there's no run backs that has been paying off. I still like the idea. It's really hard for me to hand build and not try to, when I build a Houston stack, my first thing I try to get Brian Thomas on the other side, and I kind of want Travis Etienne also. It's really hard to know when it's right to stop or whatever or keep going with the game stacks. And SaberSim, when you do the builds, is not giving you as much from the run back side, which maybe is the right way to play. It's an ongoing question that I don't think there's really an answer to, but it just has my mind going. I'm just going to throw out the games that I like the most. Target, obviously, there's the Washington-Arizona game. Everybody's on that. I think Philadelphia-Tampa Bay is a little bit sneaky, and I understand the weather is not great, but I still like it. I love the Jags in Houston. And I think the sneakiest one that I like is Minnesota-Green Bay. And I was hoping Rody was going to come here with some hot Green Bay takes. He didn't have them for me, so I'm going to downgrade it just a little bit because if he was going to be all about it, I was going to be in on it. But since you're not in on your Packers,
I like the Jayden Reed and Josh Jacobs play, either one of those plays, but that's about it. I got a little stacks of it, but I think it could do good. I think we'll see what Love does. I'm a little worried about it, though, but I think Jayden Reed would be a great play, and I think Josh Jacobs could get a lot of work today.
If Love has a bad game today, do you think they actually have a conversation because of how good that Willis looked?
No.
Do you think there's a conversation?
No.
I don't think so either, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
No, not a bad question, but maybe he's still not 100%. We don't really know. But I have to imagine if they're putting him out there today, he's good to go. Willis played too good. They could have just sat him again. Why not just sit him again?
Absolutely, I agree with that. I think Love's going to be ready to go, and I still am going to have some Love stacks. I'll be above the field, whatever that means. Sheets, what games are you focused the most on? Are you finding?
Houston, freaking Pittsburgh. You know, it's like ridiculous. I might get some Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to redo everything because of this Cam Akers business.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I'm not actually sure right now.
I'm just telling you guys right now, I think the Cam Akers thing is a very strange play. I have some of it, don't get me wrong, but there's too many good running backs, as Sheets pointed out earlier. Like, I don't think we need to make those plays. And by the way, don't be surprised if Ogabuwale or whatever outscores Akers today as the backup tight end. I mean, the backup running back. I think that he is just as good of a chance to get there, or a close enough chance to get there. I think his ownership is just too high, Akers, for me. So I'm gonna be well below the field at. Saberson's got him at what, 40% now? I just don't think we need to do that. There's plenty of high upside plays. Why do we need to do that? I don't know. That's just me, especially for a team that likes to throw the ball as much as Houston does. Anyway. All right, Rody, any other games that we missed that you're stacking up?
I don't think so. I think I've pretty much hit all the games that I wanted. I guess we didn't talk about my Chargers really at all. I mean, Quentin Johnson might be a viable. I do like the Chiefs because we like Rice a lot. And if you do stack it, Mahomes, Kelsey, or Rice or something, maybe that's where we talk about you don't need a run back, or you pick Quentin Johnson or Lamacaki as a cheap option. But maybe you don't need it. So maybe they haven't been winning as much with the run back. So you just onslaught the Chiefs. You can onslaught the 49ers. You could even probably onslaught the Bengals in reality. But Dalton's been playing really good with the Panthers. But I don't know. I'm still sticking my Houston Jags game heavy. And then, that's my main game. And then I am going to play the Washington Arizona game a little bit too. I got pieces of it in a lot of lineups. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess I'm going to still stick with the hot takes for the week. I am going to say that Brian Thomas is the best value at receiver this week by the end, and he puts up over 25 fantasy points. I guess that's a bold take.
Oh my.
I like Brian Thomas a lot, and I'm going to go that route. So that's my hot take. Sheets, any hot takes before we go to Rody to close us out?
All right. You know what? I'm just going to invent. I'm going to invent one. Okay. So I'm not going to even invent it. Okay. I'm going to say, and this might even not be a hot take. I say that and I'm going to talk about the stack with this. I think the game that goes off and wins everybody the money is going to be the Tampa Bay Philly game. And it's going to be the Tampa side that wins. So it's going to be like Godwin and what's his name and Mayfield.
Godwin, Evans, and Baker, huh?
Yeah, that's going to but Goddard and the other side and all that. I think that'll be my take. That game is the one that goes off. How about that?
I like that. That's a good one. I really like that game. That was the first lineup I built this week. I do a build every Monday morning, and my first lineup was built as a game stack of that game. So I'm in on that idea. Rody, all right. Any final thoughts, and then take us out of here?
Yeah, that's a good hot take. I did. Hurts is my power sweep lineup. Maybe I should switch that to Baker and Evans and Godwin.
Why not? Don't be messing with my hot takes for power sweep. I mean, I'm just talking about like Millie Maker.
Opposite on the main two lineups are freaking me out a little bit. But I could drop to ETN off of Barkley and I could pay up for Thomas easily, obviously. But my hot take's going to be Schultz in that game. He's in my main lineup with Stroud. That's going to be the tight end this week for me. Is Dalton Schultz. He's going to have a better game this week, and I think that's my hot take. And we ready to take it out then?
But no, wait, hold on. So Bobby, you're going to do that 3:00 thing again?
I'm not going to be able to do it today, unfortunately. I got some family stuff going on.
Okay, if I can do it, I'll do it. Otherwise, again, just watch. I maybe who knows? Maybe I'll have time to do a showdown thing later. I mean, it just depends on Mrs. Sheets' situation.
The situation, yeah, absolutely. All right, Rody.
All right, guys, make sure you check us in the Discord. Hit that like button on the way out. I'll be in the Discord and be around. So, as always, guys, good luck, and let's